The vast expanse of Alaska's wilderness stretched out before them like an unforgiving canvas. It was a place where the rules of society were blurred, and the only constant was the harsh beauty of nature. For Emily Mayfield, a wildlife biologist, it was a paradise that had become her home. She had spent countless seasons studying the behavior of Alaska's majestic creatures, from grizzly bears to wolves. In contrast, Ryan Thompson was a rugged outdoorsman who had grown up in these unforgiving lands. He was a bush pilot, flying his small plane through the skies and landing on remote airstrips with ease. Their paths had crossed before, but it was always as adversaries. Emily, determined to protect the wildlife, and Ryan, driven by a desire to tap into the natural resources of Alaska. It was a chilly autumn morning in 2015 when their worlds collided once again. Emily had been tracking a pack of wolves in the remote wilderness. Her research aimed at understanding their behavior and habitat needs. Ryan's plane had landed on an airstrip nearby, and he had arrived with a group of loggers intent on harvesting timber from the very same land. As they stood facing each other, the tension was palpable. Emily saw him as a threat to the delicate balance of the ecosystem, while Ryan viewed her as an overzealous protector of animals that were, in his opinion, just another resource to be exploited. "I'm afraid you're not welcome here," Emily said, her voice firm but controlled. Ryan smirked, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "And I'm afraid you're not going to stop us from doing our job." The standoff continued for what felt like an eternity, each side refusing to back down. It was a clash of ideologies that would set in motion a chain of events that would change their lives forever. As the days passed, Emily and Ryan found themselves crossing paths more frequently. She would see his plane landing on the airstrip nearby, and he would catch glimpses of her studying the wolves from afar. The encounters were always brief, but they left a lingering sense of unease in their wake. One afternoon, as Emily was setting up her equipment to monitor the wolf pack's behavior, Ryan landed his plane nearby. He got out, stretching his tall frame and gazing at her with an air of curiosity. "You're quite the expert on wolves," he said, his voice tinged with a hint of amusement. Emily bristled, but there was something about the genuine interest in his eyes that stayed her tongue. "I've dedicated my life to understanding them," she replied, her tone softer than before. Ryan nodded thoughtfully. "I can see why. They're incredible creatures." The conversation flowed easily from there, and for the first time, they spoke without animosity. Emily found herself drawn to Ryan's easy charm, while he was captivated by her passion for the animals she studied. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Ryan offered to take Emily on a flight over the wilderness in his plane. She hesitated at first, but the prospect of seeing Alaska from above was too enticing to resist. The flight was exhilarating, with the wind rushing past them as they soared through the skies. Below, the land stretched out like an endless canvas of greens and browns. Emily felt a sense of awe wash over her, and Ryan's hand brushed against hers as he pointed out landmarks. The touch sent shivers down her spine, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she let it linger for a moment before turning back to the view outside. Their flight ended with a gentle landing on a secluded lake. As they sat together in silence, watching the stars twinkle to life above, Emily realized that their animosity had given way to a tentative friendship. As the days turned into weeks, Emily and Ryan's interactions became more frequent. They would meet for coffee or take long walks through the wilderness, discussing everything from the intricacies of wildlife behavior to their personal lives. Their conversations were filled with laughter and easy banter, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. Emily struggled to reconcile her growing feelings for Ryan with her professional obligations as a wildlife biologist. She couldn't let her emotions cloud her judgment, not when it came to protecting the land and its creatures. Ryan, too, was grappling with his own feelings. He had always been drawn to strong-willed women like Emily, but he had never met one who could match him in wit and determination. As their friendship deepened, he found himself wondering what might happen if they took it to a more intimate level. Their relationship remained platonic for the time being, with both of them wary of crossing that line. But as they stood side by side, watching a pack of wolves roam through the wilderness, Emily felt Ryan's hand brush against hers once again. This time she didn't pull away. It was a crisp winter morning when the tension between them finally boiled over. A logger had been injured while working on one of Ryan's logging contracts, and Emily had arrived at the scene to document the incident. As they stood together, surveying the damage, Ryan turned to her with an expression that was both apologetic and pleading. "I know we've had our differences, but I promise you, we're not monsters," he said. "We just want to make a living in this beautiful place." Emily's heart went out to him, and for the first time she saw Ryan as more than just an adversary. She realized that their perspectives weren't mutually exclusive, they could coexist. As the weight of her realization settled upon her, Emily felt a sense of resolve wash over her. "I believe you," she said softly, "and I want to help." Their hands touched, and this time it was more than just a fleeting brush against each other's skin. It was a spark that ignited a fire within them both. As the seasons passed, Emily and Ryan found themselves growing closer with each passing day. They began to see the world through different eyes, not as adversaries but as allies in their shared love for Alaska's wilderness. Their romance blossomed slowly like the first tender shoots of spring. It was a union built on mutual respect, trust, and a deep understanding of one another's passions. One evening, as they sat together on a hill overlooking a lake, Ryan turned to Emily with a smile that lit up his entire face. "I've always wanted to share this place with someone," he said, his voice filled with emotion. Emily smiled back at him, her heart full of love for the man beside her and the land they had grown to cherish together. "You can share it with me now," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. And as the stars twinkled above them, they leaned in for their first kiss, a moment that would change their lives forever. The end.